Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so pleased you're able to join us from all over the world today. We hope you're all set up, maybe brought some snacks and a glass of wine as you embark on our Asia adventures. My name is Ella. I'm the digital marketing executive for Explore in Australia, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so. So, coming up, what can you expect from our event today? We're going to give you a short intro into who we are and what we are about, and how it's important for us to work with local communities. Then I'll welcome three of my colleagues who will transport you to some of the most exciting destinations in Asia. They'll tell you more about their experiences, as well as giving us some key practical information on what to expect and when to visit. So we'll finish off with have some time to answer your questions, tell you about an exciting offer, and we also have a prize draw. So before we get started, a few tips and tricks to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. Everyone is automatically on mute, but we'd love for you to make use of the Q&A and chat features. On the chat, tell us where you're viewing from. If you've been on an Explore adventure before, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer, please use the Q&A function. I have a team of experts who'll be answering the questions as we go, and we'll also keep some time for questions to be answered during the live Q&A at the end. If you miss anything or need to duck out, no worries at all. We are recording this event and we'll be sharing the recording along with a summary of the most frequently asked questions. You'll also get an email with exclusive offer and a link to the video by the end of the week. So, about Explore. Before we get started properly, some of you may know Explore very well, but there's some of you who may not be so familiar with us. So we run over 350 small group adventures to more than 100 countries worldwide. We have classic discovery trips, walking and cycling, food and drink tours, all with small groups averaging at about 11. Expert tour leaders and unforgettable experiences. We also have a brand new collection, Explore Upgraded. It's everything our customers know and love about an Explore holiday, with upgraded stays to offer that extra bit of comfort after a big day of adventuring. So, why Explore? So why do people love to travel with us? On our trips, you'll see a mix of famous sites and hidden gems others might miss or not even know about. And as travelers, we want to experience a place, not just simply observe it. So we'll take you closer to the country, its culture and people, often in unscripted and spontaneous ways. Our fabulous tour leaders use their expert insider knowledge and local connections to make the most of unexpected opportunities. You might be invited to watch a sunrise from a lighthouse or join in on family Diwali celebrations. They'll be on hand to make sure your trip goes smoothly and takes care of all the logistics. So our average group size is just 11, big enough to meet like-minded people, but small enough to get to the heart of the destination. Sustainability is also at the heart of what we do, and we only work out with partners who have the same values as we have. We've recently received Platinum Trusted Service Award from FIFO because our customer reviews are over 5.5 out of 5. We are also B Corp certified business, which is something we're super proud of here at Explore. So meet the team tonight. I'm delighted that I'll be joined by four of our team members today, James, Kelly, Bridget, and Manon. They are presenting and are part of the team that will be answering the questions as you ask online. We'll also bring them back for the Q&A session at the end of the event. So for now, I'd like to talk about a bit more information on how we work with local communities when visiting different places. So if you're anything like the average traveler, our strongest memories when we travel are the connections we make. It's the locals that share their food, their culture, their landscapes, and it's what Explore tours are always about. We are so proud that our trips champion the local and puts money into the local economy. So here at Explore, we want to do even more than just that. So we have our Explore Foundation. It's our way of giving that little extra back to the places we visit. The foundation is a registered charity run by a board of independent trustees. When you travel on an Explore tour, we make a donation on your behalf, and that money raised supports grassroots initiatives that empower people to create opportunities. We've provided bikes to women in rural Tanzania to access education. We've helped keep elephants in their natural habitat in Thailand, and we've installed solar panels in India, allowing a weaving cooperative to continue running their business rather than worrying about keeping the lights on. So if you want to check out what your holiday supports, Take a look at the website at explore.foundation, and there's loads of information about all the amazing projects we support. So our trip's in focus today. So we're going to take a further look into these destinations tonight. First off, we'll be journeying through Japan, a mesmerizing blend of ancient traditions and futuristic innovation. Then we'll head to the pearl of the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka, with its lush tea plantations and wildlife-rich jungles. And finally, we're going to Vietnam, through the country's atmospheric cities, villages, and waterways. We'll be covering history, culture, and delicious local food. We'll also talk to you about what you can expect on one of our tours to these destinations. Now, I'd like to welcome James, who will take you over to Japan. Over to you, James.
Cool. Thank you, Ella. And thanks everyone for joining us. It's my absolute pleasure to talk about Japan for the next 10 to 15 minutes with you to run through our most popular trip in what is a really popular destination for us for the past couple of years. And I'm sure it just will continue to boom. So, first of all, what I'm going to do is talk through the map, just give you a really brief overview of what this itinerary does. It is 14 days. The first thing to mention is that I went there 2 years ago, and I must say I've traveled quite a lot, and it was really left a positive impact. It's such a special and I suppose different and unique is the word. It's the land from the future and the past. It felt so different from anywhere else that I'd traveled, I'd say. Another thing to mention is this map does not do it justice. It's an incredibly beautiful country. It's lush, covered in forest. It's largely mountainous. There's actually not a lot of arable land. So all the journeys are a pleasure and they're mountainous. So what we do is we start off in the mega city. 36 million people live in Tokyo. So bright lights, big city, neon, vibrant. You could spend 2 weeks in Tokyo alone. And then we use train to go across the Japanese Alps. So that's a particularly beautiful journey. And we go up through Matsumoto, where we visit a castle, and we go to Nagano, which is the seat of Buddhism in Japan, before we switch coasts down to the Sea of Japan. So that's facing the Asian side. And then we cut inside to Takeyama, which is another rural stay, before heading down to Hiroshima. And then finally from Hiroshima, before actually in Hiroshima, we take another side trip to see another bit of nature on the island of Miyajima. And then we head up to Kyoto, which is the jewel in the crown, if you like, the highlight for many people. And then we head down to finish up in Osaka. So that is the journey in brief. And then over the next few slides, I just want to focus on some aspects of why Japan left such an impression and why people love it. I'd have to say the food is absolutely excellent, and it's not just seafood. It's not just sashimi, sushi. You've got lots of variety, and the focus is very much on locally sourced seasonal ingredients. So they prize the local products, and then it's quite relatively simple cuisine, and it's just showcasing really good produce. Another reason that chose this photo, sorry, just jumping back a second, is that there's a couple of aspects in this photo that I think are quite good to highlight, which permeate all aspects of Japanese culture. And that in Japanese, it's kodawari and kaizen. And what they are, in summary, is an intense focus on achieving perfection in everything they do, in even the smallest detail. So they take great pride in anything they do, and they don't stop there either. They're always thinking in Japanese culture of ways to improve, small incremental changes to constantly evolve and improve the process, be it food, a tea ceremony, making cars, producing beef, making whiskey, or anything in business, traditional arts, you name it. So I think that's one of the aspects that makes it such a pleasant and interesting place to travel to, and that's why they produce things of such high quality. So the food, the Japanese are obsessed in a really good way with food, and that is certainly a highlight for it was for me, and it is for many people. So look at that, land from the future, the trains. So the first country in the world to actually adopt a high-speed train network. There's only 4 countries in the world, and Japan started theirs in 1964, and they are immaculate. They run perfectly on time. Amazingly, the doors only open on the platform. I think it's about 30 seconds, but it all works perfectly. Everything in Japan works perfectly and like clockwork. So a lot of our hotels actually, this trip is like a train trip because we only take a bus on one occasion. So we make use of the best train network in the world. We're not always on the bullet trains. We're sometimes on the regional trains, but they're all a pleasure, and it's a lovely, relaxing way to travel. And the scenery out the window is beautiful. For that reason, we choose hotels that are relatively close to the train stations, and which also ties in with bus and metro networks. So it's a relatively low carbon footprint trip. Another thing about Japan is there's lots of etiquette and there's lots of things you should do and shouldn't do. One of those is eating food in public. Obviously, a restaurant's fine, but in public, like walking down the street, you will never really see a Japanese person drinking a drink, say a coffee, or eating something and walking. They do. That's bad etiquette. But in public, one place that you can eat is on a train. So you'll see lots of Japanese people and tourists having lunch on the train, and in the train stations there's a vast array of amazing little locally run eateries that sell bento boxes you may have heard of. They call them ekiben, which is like a train station bento box, and they showcase the regional cuisine, and they're absolutely delicious and inexpensive. So that's just a nice little thing to try as you go make your way around the country. So moving on to gardens is another thing that the Japanese are famous for. This is an absolutely beautiful garden that we visit in at Kanazawa up on the Sea of Japan side after crossing the Japanese Alps. And it's been manicured over centuries to produce an absolutely aesthetically beautiful and peaceful, serene atmosphere as you walk around the various parts of the garden. So there's other Zen gardens and there's other gardens that you can visit along the way, um, and they make a beautiful contrast to the built environment. Bottom left, another tradition that's quite famous around the world is a Japanese tea ceremony, which is a lot again of etiquette, attention to detail, and almost takes on a spiritual process as the person makes the matcha tea for you, and it's just a fascinating insight into one part of Japanese culture, and it's a delicious drink to boot. So with your Japanese tea, top left, a traditional sweet. The cuisine tends to be savory on the whole. There are some sweet treats, and one of them that's very traditional is featured up in the top left corner. And these sweet cakes are traditionally eaten with the matcha tea, and they're made at different parts of the different times of the year. They'll focus on different features of nature. So at this time of year, it's a blossom, so they're formed into flowers, and they're made from red bean paste and mochi flour, and they're delicious as well. Another example of the attention to detail. Hiroshima, some people might think, oh, why would you want to go to Hiroshima, the site of the first atomic bomb? I think it's really important in any of these destinations to remember there's a beautifully presented, poignant and moving museum in the Peace Park area. You can see the photo on the left hand side, and there's one building that they've kept from the actual explosion that happened a couple of hundred meters in the sky above Hiroshima. Nowadays, it's also a very uplifting experience because while it's poignant and important and sad to remember the past, it's actually a thriving, young, vibrant university city that's good fun to go out at night and experience. So you can see the rebirth as well as the poignant past there. And on the right hand side, lots of wildlife in Japan. There's one opportunity. We'll see deers when we're in Miyajima and on the island from Hiroshima. And also, we make a side trip from Nagano in the Japanese Alps to a famous site where you can see the Japanese macaques, or sometimes called snow monkeys, taking a hot bath in a natural onsen. So that's fed by hot spring water. So moving on to touch a little bit on religion. So, before Buddhism landed, the Japanese believed more in animist Shintoism. So, really, it's blended. Both beliefs are blended through modern Japanese society. So, as you travel around, you'll see both Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples. And every Shinto shrine has what's called a torii gate, which is a vermilion or red, traditionally single gate normally, that marks the spiritual entrance to the sacred land of the shrine. And there's one in particular, you might have seen this photo before, that is in Kyoto, which features hundreds of torii gates, and it makes for a beautiful photo, and it's very striking. You've got to get up super early to see it without any people, but it is possible. Get up before breakfast or go in the evening when it's lit up after dinner. You're more likely to get it without people. One thing about Kyoto as well, just to mention, is that it was one of the few places that the Americans didn't target in their bombing campaign in the Second World War, and that's because it was the ancient capital. So there's a reason it's a highlight. It's because it was for I think 1,000 years the ancient capital, and it wasn't bombed and destroyed. So you've got largely intact, really important temple groups with Zen gardens. It's not built up like Tokyo. It's much more low rise, and it's very historical and very, very pretty and fascinating. So you can spend a lot of time in Kyoto. So the weird, the wacky, and the wonderful. There's so many different things about Japan where you're like, wow, that's different. Or everything, like I said earlier with the trains, everything's run on time, everything works, be it public toilets. I've never seen so many public toilets in my life, and they're all immaculate, and there's no vandalism. Another aspect is the vending machines. There's an incredible number of vending machines, and they sell everything from cars to food to drinks to toys, you name it, and they are everywhere. So, top left, that's a photo from the top of Mount Fuji. The bottom right is a photo as I was going to see the snow monkeys in winter, just on a path in the middle of the forest. You've got two machines selling hot and cold drinks. So it's just, I think there's 5.5 million vending machines, and that's one for every 22 Japanese people. So that's something you'll definitely see as you travel around. Just to sort of wrap up now and talk a little bit about the accommodation, there's two places. So, on the right, first of all, traditional three-star standard sort of hotels, clean, comfortable, well located. The one thing to point out is that the Japanese themselves, in their own lives, in their apartments, they don't have particularly large apartments. They're used to living with very little space. There's a very big population living in very small areas. So it's a lot of high rise and small apartments, and that translates to hotel rooms as well. The hotel rooms are pretty small. You can pack light, having said that, because every hotel pretty much has washer, dryer, coin operated, really efficient. If you wanted to wash clothes as you go around, that's totally possible. Every hotel that we stay in will be en suite, and you get your famous Japanese toilet with the heated seat and all the jets if you want. And then on the left hand side, there's a couple of nights that we spend in traditional accommodation. One night is in Nagano, in the seat of Buddhism that I mentioned. There's, because that's the most important Buddhist temple in the country, lots of pilgrims have made their way there on pilgrimage over hundreds of years. And as a result, a number of lodgings have built up around the temple group. And what we do is make use of one of those lodgings and spend a night in traditional Japanese accommodation. So think tatami mats, rolled out futons, sliding doors, and shared bathroom and bathing facilities. So what does that involve? In the bottom left, you've got single sex bathing, and for the Japanese, they grow up doing this. It's completely normal to get nude for them in front of strangers and have a shower, first of all, and then soak themselves in a hot bath, normally at the end of each day. So you could go and do that if you want, go full Japanese, or there is an alternative where they have timed allotments where you can have a more private experience as well if you wanted. There is another night in Takayama where we spend a night in a ryokan, which is a locally run, family run Japanese traditional accommodation, which is similar. But I should point out at this stage to wrap up is that in 2026, we'll just have the night in the temple stay, and the ryokan will go into a hotel. And also in 2026, that final night won't be in Osaka, it will be in Kyoto. So same duration. I hope I haven't confused you with that. So just to summarize, um, 14 days, you got those 2 nights on the right hand side, one night in Simple Monastery that keeps on into next year, one night in Simple Ryokan, which is this year, changes to hotel. Moderate pace, but you are spending a lot of time on your feet. So you want to be fit and able and relatively active or used to walking around. And especially if you want to make the most of your trip and see as much as possible, it turns into a bit more full on if you do all the optionals and fill your time every day. When to travel? Lots of people talk about the cherry blossom, and it is an absolutely beautiful time to travel there. But I would say Japan's popular, and this itinerary particularly focuses on the highlights of Honshu, the main island, and that is the most popular time of year. So it does get super busy. You can go pretty much year round. The summer does get hot and humid. So if you wanted to avoid that, you could consider winter or going into autumn as a particularly beautiful time of year as the trees change color and it takes on a beautiful different reds and golden colors as the forests change. So Kelly in our team in Australia traveled there. So I'm just going to hand over to Kelly quickly to what were your highlights, Kelly?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I was lucky enough to visit Japan with Explore in November last year, and it's actually my first time to Japan, and I loved it. Some of my highlights were, oh, just to name the top three, but there was many. Was definitely the fish markets. We're lucky enough on all of our trips to Japan, you'll visit the fish markets, and it's definitely a must do, especially if you enjoy seafood. It is the freshest seafood you'll ever have, and a wide variety of selection to choose from. It's such a great experience to speak with the locals and just walk and see the hundreds of different options that they have there. One of my other things was the snow monkeys. Of course, everyone wants to go and see them and experience them. That is a very bucket list experience to tick off. The snow monkeys were beautiful, as you can see, super cute in their thermal baths there, and you will love it because they are obviously in the wild and you can see them walking around and they can come quite close to you. And it's such an experience that you can't get anywhere else. So, highly, highly recommend that. And for the traditional tea ceremony, again, that was super special just to be a part of. You get to sit down and participate with the other people in your tour and enjoy some matcha and see it getting made. And it's a wonderful experience. You also get to have some delicacies of the local sweets to taste with your matcha as well. But like I said, Japan's absolutely amazing. And if you haven't done it before, you definitely need to.
Cool. Thanks, Kelly. And the snow monkeys, they're year round. It's nature, so you're never guaranteed, obviously, but they tend to be there, particularly in the winter months, a bit more, but people see them all year round. So you've got to cross your fingers a little bit there, but it is a really special experience. So before I hand over to Bridget to talk about Sri Lanka, I'm just going to focus very quickly on one of the neighbours of Japan. It's only an hour to 2 hours flight time, so it's easily combinable. South Korea is experiencing increasing popularity, I think largely thanks to a lot of its famous popular exports, so music, movies, TV series, the food, beauty products, you name it. South Korea is getting more and more on people's radar. I was lucky enough to join our first departure about 2 weeks ago. I came back from South Korea of our brand new trip, and it was fantastic. It's amazing to think that in the 50s, after the Korean War, that it was a broken country and largely agrarian, very little natural resources, and to think you go now and it's super modern. It is really, it's an economic powerhouse. It's incredibly developed, and it's also beautiful. Again, the map doesn't do it justice, doesn't show the contour lines. It's a really beautiful country, largely mountainous. Mountains get bigger as you go further north. And it's just fascinating. The people, again, a bit like Japan, are very kind, sweet. They'll come up to you if you look lost or you look like you don't understand something. They want to help you, and they're just lovely people. A few snaps from my picture from my trip around. So one of the days we get out of into the countryside, top left, and climb a mountain on a half-day hike, Namsan Mountain. Um, Seoul is half the population live there. It's a mega city. We also visit a fascinating city called Busan in the south. The tea that you can see is a really beautiful tea house that we visited on arrival into Busan, and had a delicious tea and a little local cake. Along the way, there's a lot of variety in the itinerary, from the DMZ to the ancient cultural heartlands to into the mountains, to the modern and the ancient. So the top right is Jeonju, which is one of the few remaining Hanok traditional accommodation. So Hanok Village, which is part of Jeonju modern city, that you can visit. And the bottom left is one of the Buddhist um, temples, which has got immaculate, beautiful detail. It's actually a majority Christian country, so it's a bit more Western adjacent and a little bit less different to Japan. Um, and then the food was again a massive highlight, and it's really varied and regional, and it changes as you go around the country. And we include a few meals, and you've got every evening the opportunity and lunch to sort of branch out and try loads of different cuisine. A lot of it's cooking at table, and the waiters help you, but the food was a really lovely aspect of the travel. One of the ancient temple entrances is the photo bottom right, and then finally in Busan, there's a old railway line that they've converted for tourism purposes into these really cute little capsules that run along the seaside, and you can see the dramatic coastal scenery. So really recommend South Korea if it isn't already on your radar. So I'm going to hand over now to Bridget.
Thanks, James. Thank you so much. I think I could listen to you talk about Japan all day. One of my favorite destinations. I could visit 1,000 times and never see everything I want to see and do everything I want to do. But this evening, what I would like to talk to you about is a small island country that has absolutely stolen my heart, and that is, of course, Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka, also known as the teardrop of India, as you can see from the map there, just purely by its shape, it is a very small island country. I think I looked it up the other day, and it's actually just slightly smaller than Tasmania. But in saying that, it's absolutely lacking nothing at all. There's just so many different landscapes to explore and discover, and I'll talk to them more about you throughout the presentation. But with this one, you'll see the map. We cover so much of Sri Lanka. You're really not missing out on anything. The Sri Lanka in-depth trip is a 15-day tour, and I think that's the perfect amount of time. I did this itinerary, but in a condensed amount of time, just recently in May, about 8 days. And I think having the 15 days is really ideal to take it all in and experience everything along the way as well. So let's get straight into it, and I'll talk about one of our first stops along the way. And that is, of course, Wilpattu National Park. And on this itinerary, this is the first of 2 Jeep tours that you actually get to do through a national park to explore all the different wildlife. And it actually it blew my mind. I don't think I ever imagined myself being on a Jeep safari tour in Sri Lanka, and it was an absolute highlight. So some of the wildlife that if you're lucky to see, of course, elephants. There are a lot of wild elephants sort of just walking around Sri Lanka. And then, of course, sloth bears. I wasn't lucky enough to see sloth bears, but they are hiding there if you're lucky enough to see them. What I did get to see is a lot of the really cute and timid spotted deer, as you can see in that picture on the left there. And also, if you're a bird watcher or a bird lover, there's over 150 different varieties of birds hanging out in Wilpattu National Park. So bring your cameras. I think you're really going to enjoy bird watching on this tour. We saw a lot of peacocks and peahens, which of course is your female peacocks in this particular tour. And this little guy here, he's a really colorful little bee eater. We saw a few of these guys along the way as well. The silver langur monkey that you can see in the top right hand corner there, they have this really distinctive flowing coat and black face and the little tuft on top of their head. We sort of saw them roaming in a few different locations, but the first time we spotted them was in Wilpattu, and they were really impressive to see. And of course, the ever elusive leopard is at the top of everybody's list that they're wanting to spot on the Jeep Safari. I was incredibly lucky within the last 10 minutes of our Jeep Safari tour as we we're making our way out of the park. Our driver did a U-turn, pulled up behind another Jeep, and there, just right in front of us, about 5 to 10 meters away, was a young leopard, and he just turned and looked directly into our eyes. And it was just such an awe-inspiring moment. And we had a photographer on our trip. He was getting a lot of pictures for us that you'll see in this presentation, actually. Getting content for Explore. And he caught that picture in the bottom right, just as the leopard snuck back into the bushes. And I actually love it because the image really captures the absolute elusiveness of them, and that you might have a chance of catching a small glimpse of a leopard or a little spot or a little fluff of a tail here along the way. But that is your first of 2 Jeep safaris on this particular trip. And I think you're really going to enjoy that wildlife experience. From here, we move on to Sigiriya. This is also known as the Sky Fortress or Lion's Rock. You can see it at a distance there on the right. That was our group walking into the entrance, ready to do the climb. The history of Sigiriya dates back to the 5th century, and it was a king, King Kasayaba. He actually murdered his own father and usurped his own brother so that he could take over rule of the throne. And then he ended up building this palace and sky fortress, expecting revenge from his brother. So it's just such a fascinating and interesting place, this outdoor palace and fortress. The climb wasn't as difficult as I thought it might be. It is 1,200 steps, so just watch out if you've sort of got those dodgy knees, and remember what goes up must come down. And the stairways can be quite thin, and you are on the edge of a rock face, so just keeping that in mind if you're not great with heights as well. But we did this entire climb at sunrise, which is a really great time to do it. It's cooler and there's less crowds. And we were back at the hotel in time for a late breakfast and a swim in the pool before we headed off to our next destination. On the final ascent to the climb of the rock, you come across these giant lion's paws. And they were, sorry about that, giant lion's paws. And there used to be the head of a lion there as well, but it has since crumbled over time. And you're just left with these really big, impressive paws that is really cool to get up close to. And then once you get to the top, you're absolutely, I should say, rewarded with this incredible view of the surrounding scenery. So it's definitely worth the climb. And then from here, we begin to make our way further up into the mountains. And our next stop along the way is a really pretty city called Kandy. And that's the picture that you can see on the left there, surrounded by these beautiful green hills. And they have this really amazing giant white Buddha sitting at the top of the city, watching down upon it. And it's about 500 meters above sea level here in Kandy. So this is where the temperature begins to drop a little bit. And we stay at a hotel called Hotel Casamara, which is the one you can see in that center picture there. Sort of what James was saying before about 3.5 star comfortable accommodation. Has everything that you need for a nice comfortable sleep, your hot coffee and breakfast in the morning. And I think the best thing about this one is such a good location. You sort of stepped right out of the hotel into the heart of the city. There's shops and ATMs nearby. So basic, but really well located for the Hotel Casamara. Of the evening, we went to the Temple of the Tooth, and there was a ceremony taking place. And what we did is we went there, we made some offerings and received back some blessings. And then we stood in this progression. It was a line. And what everybody is doing is standing in this line to go past a window. And inside the window is housed the original Buddha's tooth inside of this golden shrine. And everybody lines up to walk past this window to get a short glimpse of this tooth inside. And the light that shines through this window from the amount of gold that is inside is just absolutely incredible. And then this entire time, there's drummers in the background playing the drums, there's wooden pipes playing. It's just an amazing experience. And I also thought to myself, this is one of those experiences that I wouldn't have done if I was traveling alone. And I think that's really where the benefit of traveling with a small group and having a local guide who knows exactly what they're doing to take you along to something like this really is of benefit with you for traveling with Explore with your local guide and your small group, and just the bonding that you do over experience like that with your small group as well. That's really special. And then from here, we climb even further up the mountain ranges, up to about 1,800 meters above sea level, to a place called Nuwara Eliya. And this is also known as Little England of Sri Lanka. And this, of course, dates back to British colonial times. And you can definitely see it's still present in a lot of the buildings and architecture there. We stay at a hotel called the Blackpool Hotel. Looks similar to a Tudor house, so it's white with that black trim. And the top left image that you can see there was actually the view from my room. So looking out onto the tea plantations, I could see the the ladies, I should say, picking tea of an afternoon, and I could hear chanting in a nearby temple. It's really been right up there of the best views in the world I've ever had from my hotel room. And of course, around Nuwara Eliya, we have all the other luscious green tea plantations. We get to visit a plantation and see the entire process from picking the tea all the way through to drying the tea and then sorting it into their differences, like the green tea, the white tea, black tea, and then I think the ultimate top of the list was a gold tip tea. If anyone knows their teas out there, that's the ultimate one. And we have a tea tasting as well. This is probably the best place to get all of your souvenirs too. As long as it's packaged and you declare it, you can bring it back into Australia and New Zealand. So hot tip there for your Sri Lankan souvenirs is to bring your tea home. And the train picture that you can see there as well. From Nuwara Eliya, we do a short drive to Nunuoya and we take a 4-hour train journey to Demadara. And this goes over the Nine Arch Bridge that you can see in that photo there. And this is a pretty famous picture if you've sort of ever looked up some information on traveling to Sri Lanka. And we cross this bridge on that train journey, of course. Train is such a great way to get around Sri Lanka. It's affordable, relatively easy, and it's just a highlight because you're rubbing shoulders with the locals, all while looking at this incredible scenery while zooming along the way. I want a massive shout out to Sam. He's the younger gentleman drinking tea in that photo. He managed to capture that picture for me. So that's his incredible image of the Nine Arch Bridge. So thanks for letting me use that in this presentation tonight, Sam. Really appreciate it. Now, from Sri Lanka's Little England, we begin to head back down on our Sri Lanka in-depth tour towards the coastlines and back again towards the cities. So along the way, we stop at Undawallaway, which is where we visit this really great elephant sanctuary where they house all the orphaned elephants before they return them to the wild. So they look after them, and multiple times a day they have a feeding session where they give them a milk replacement, leaves and branches. And I don't know about you, but there's really nothing cuter than a happy baby elephant. So this was a really cute stop along the way at Undawallaway Elephant Transit Centre. We also visit Gaul. This was a city that was built and fortified by the Portuguese, first by the Portuguese and then later again fortified by the Dutch. And you can see a lot of the architecture around the town, especially the churches here. We've got a lot of Dutch churches that you get to visit along the way. But I think what Gaul is probably really well known for, especially by cricket fans, is the Gaul International Cricket Stadium that you can see in the top left picture there as well. So that's a must see if you do enjoy your cricket. We base ourselves by the beach now here, back along the coastline at Kagala. Again, basic, simple, comfortable accommodation, but you just can't beat the location. It's right on the beach. That's the picture that you can see above the elephants. Of an evening, we'd do this 1 kilometre walk from the beach to the local town nearby along the beachfront. And if you were lucky, you could see some green sea turtles. I didn't get to see the green sea turtles this time, but I saw the most amount of hermit crabs I've ever seen in my entire life, all congregated in the one area. It was so so different and interesting. But that's some more amazing wildlife that you get to see along the beaches in Sri Lanka. And then at the end of this tour, we actually finish in the main city of Colombo, and we spend one night there before we fly on out to our next destination or back home again. So that's a brief overview of our Sri Lanka in-depth itinerary. I can't leave you guys though without quickly just touching on the food. So the food in Sri Lanka is just so good. It's so fresh, no processed junk here, just fresh vegetables, fresh fruits on a daily basis, lots of curries. I have a dietary requirement myself. I don't eat fish or seafood. I never went hungry. I was always catered for. Very vegetarian friendly as well. There's just so many options. The bottom right there is a traditional buffalo milk curd with treacle made from the palm sap that they often give as gifts when they visit each other's house. And of course, the hopper is the bowl-shaped pancake that you can see in the top right picture there, made from a fermented rice flour and coconut milk that normally has a fried egg placed in the center of it. And that's a traditional breakfast that they generally have as well. But you definitely will not go hungry in Sri Lanka. Always very well fed and looked after. And so thank you guys for joining me this evening. I really appreciate your time and spending it here with us. Again, just to quickly debrief on the Sri Lanka in-depth tour, 15 days, ultimate amount of time if you're visiting Sri Lanka to take in and see as much as possible and do as much as possible. We do have a mix of accommodation with the 4 nights premium and 1 night's comfortable tented camp, but mainly that comfortable 3.5 star accommodation, but generally well located. Best times to travel, December to March is generally what they call dry seasons, and then May to September it can be their monsoon season. I did visit in May just recently, and I kind of expected it to be like Queensland weather. It was hot and humid during the day, and then we had rain or storms of an evening or an afternoon. It didn't really hinder any of our plans or activities. Just remember to pack your raincoat and your umbrella, of course. And if you do prefer a more premium style of touring with a big focus more on sort of a premium range of hotels, we do, of course, have our upgraded Sri Lanka tour where we stay at places like the Kandalama Heritance, which is the infinity pool. And you can see the hotel there just absolutely engrossed in greenery. And then the Grand Hotel in Nuwara Eliya in Sri Lanka's Little England is the images that you can see on the left of the hotel room and the pool down the bottom. So these tours are probably a little bit more leisurely paced with 2 and 3 night stays in these premium properties because there's a bit more focus on the accommodation there as well. But again, thank you guys again. Sri Lanka has to be on your list. It's just such a beautiful destination. I could talk about it all evening, but I really do need to pass you over to Manon now, who's going to talk to you about all things Vietnam. Night, guys.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Manon. Thank you, Bridget, by the way. It was a really good presentation about Sri Lanka. So it's going to be a bit hard to go up after you and your great enthusiasm. But I'm going to talk about Vietnam. So I'm the lucky product manager here at Explore, looking after Southeast Asia, and it's a part of the world that I'm really passionate about. But Vietnam in particular is like a country like no other place on earth, basically. So yeah, so we have so many different itineraries in Vietnam. It's one of our most popular destinations. We do a walking trip, we do a cycling trip, we do a lot of different discovery tours, ranging from 14 days to 21 days, and exploring different parts of Vietnam. But I'm going to talk you through our most popular itinerary, which is the classic Vietnam tour. So basically it starts in Hanoi. and finish in Ho Chi Minh City, going along the coast and visiting some of the highlights of Vietnam. So the next slide, we're gonna start in Hanoi, but before that, I wanted to tell you why I love Vietnam so much. So Vietnam's got so many different aspects that I love. So first of all, the food. I'm obsessed. It's one of my favorite food in the whole world. And I actually discovered Vietnamese food when I was living in Australia. You're lucky to have really good Vietnamese food. I can't find that in London, but I keep trying. But yeah, basically the food is just fresh and fragrant and healthy and loads of seafood. It's also really good if you're vegetarian or even vegan. Just need to be careful not to add any fish sauce or shrimp paste, but you can easily, because everything is like freshly made, you can easily ask to remove the fish sauce, and then you can have delicious vegetarian or vegan meals as well. The food is not like in Thailand either. It's not, I guess, for me, it's not spicy. It's really loads of fresh herb and loads of different flavors. Quite amazing. Why I love Vietnam too is like the people. The locals are just like one of the friendliest people I ever met. They're really always smiling and they're always ready to engage to you, to talk to you, to show you how they live. They're really proud of their country and they're really happy to show it to you. Also, the landscape in Vietnam is just breathtaking. So you've got the seaside, the mountains, the temples. You basically have so many different landscape, and also the history. Obviously, everyone knows about the Vietnamese War, and that's something we would gonna explore during the trip. But also, there's so many different temples. There's so many different dynasties that there's like a lot of different type of architecture, which is quite fascinating. So our trip starts in Hanoi in the north of Vietnam. So in Hanoi is quite a busy city, but it's so historical and it's so amazing. Actually, when I got there, I had a little tear because it was so magical to be there. You can really feel that history and that atmosphere is like nowhere else in the world, basically. It's really famous to cross the road because there's motorbikes everywhere, and then you need to be quite quick if you want to cross the road. But obviously, your local guides and is going to help you with that to navigate the city. Also the food. So every part of Vietnam is different. So the north is a different type of food, and you've got the central part of Vietnam and then the south. And my favorite, I'm a foodie, so I'm going to talk about food a lot. But my favorite is basically the bún chả Hanoi. So it's the top left picture, which is basically a stew with meatballs, and you get it with spring rolls and noodles, and it's just no one of my favorite dish in the world. Basically, I could eat it every day. And I'm going back soon to Vietnam, and that's the first thing I'm gonna do is gonna go and eat this. So in Hanoi, you can also visit the old quarters. You've got obviously the more modern part of the city. And one thing which is quite different and interesting you can do, it's a water puppet show. So you can see the picture on the right, and it's very different and interesting. So it's very traditional art from the north of Vietnam, where you can go and you have like a performance of puppets in the water. So yeah, so mainly on all our trips we have the optional, or it's included in some of our trips to go see a water puppet show. So next, we obviously when we're in Vietnam, we need to go to Ha Long Bay. So we're gonna take a trip to the beautiful and amazing UNESCO heritage Ha Long Bay. So it's, I think everyone heard of Halong Bay or have seen the picture of it, and it's exactly like the picture. It's breathtaking. It's so beautiful. The water, the turquoise water with all the mountains and the cave you can explore, and it's really, really amazing. So depending on which trip you choose, sometimes we go to Halong Bay, and sometimes we also try to go to Lahan Bay as well, or different bays which are a bit less touristy. So it depends obviously on the day of the week you're traveling and the availability. And on some of the trip, we're also staying on Cat Ba Island, and it's easier to do Lahan Bay. And Lahan Bay basically is like same scenery of Halong Bay, but less tourists. So it's a win-win. Then we're gonna take the overnight train to Hue. So why are we taking the overnight train? Is because it's a great way to travel. You get to really meet the locals, really get that authentic way of traveling. But it's also because at Explore, we really try to be sustainable and reduce our carbon footprint. And taking the train is definitely more efficient than the plane. And we're really pushing our sustainability efforts. So it's basically, yeah, two-way. We want you to travel as a local, and we want to do in a sustainable way. So we're taking the overnight train. This is also a very historical and famous train who goes from Hanoi to Hue. So you can see the picture. It's quite comfortable. It's a full berth cabin. So you're going to be sharing with obviously other people, but you've got toilets and sink and everything you need. And once you get to Hue, you get to refresh in the morning and then start touring the city. So the next slide is I'm going to talk about Hue and Hoa An. So you're in the central part of Vietnam, and yeah, it's two amazing cities renowned for the food again, but it's basically where you're gonna find the best food in Vietnam. So in Hue is a bit the food capital of Vietnam, and it used to be you've got the royal food because it used to be you've got the temples and everything in Hue. So yeah, so there we cruise along the Perfume River. We get to taste loads of different food, and then we continue to Hoa An. So Hoa An is usually the favorite place of a lot of people. Why? Because it's just so charming. You've got all the colorful lanterns. It's a very, very pretty city. Basically, it was a city, it was a very important trade port. So basically, you have a mix of different culture. You've got the Chinese influence, the French influence, the Japanese influence, and everything creates a colorful world, which is like quite very atmospheric. In Hoa An also, you can go do a cooking class. So you can see my lovely colleague Carrie who went on a trip about a month ago. She did the cooking class and she really loved it because we're going to see a family and we're actually cooking with the family. We're going to see the garden, see how they produce their food, and then the whole group get to cook together. And if you don't want to cook, you can also just observe or just help, and then everyone eats the meal together. So it's a really great way to discover the city. We're also offering a lantern making class, which is actually one of my favorites. So it's quite different and interesting. But yeah, you have plenty of time to explore Hoa An. We're also going to discover the Malay site, which is an important place during the Vietnam War. And yeah, it's really good. You also have loads of tailor shops. So if you want tailor-made clothes, Hoa An is the place to go to. So yeah. Then we need to take a flight because Vietnam is a very, very long country, and we're taking one overnight train, and then we're taking a flight from Ho An to Ho Chi Minh City. So it's only a short flight. It's about an hour and a half, very easy to get to. But once we get to Ho Chi Minh, the first thing we do is we're gonna go and explore the Mekong Delta. So the Mekong Delta is basically the southern part of Vietnam, and usually it's called the rice bowl of Vietnam because it's really where you've got the cultivation of so many different fruit and rice, and loads of food comes from there. So what I love on most of our trip is that we're staying in a homestay. So it's called a homestay, but nowadays it's more like guest houses because it started as a homestay, and then obviously the family managed to develop it. So now it feels more like a guest house, but it's still a great way to interact with the family. It's very charming, very traditional. You get your own room with your ensuite, so you've got all the comfort, and people are usually surprised when we call it homestay. When they see the room and the ensuite, they're usually pleasantly surprised because it's very comfortable. But yeah, you get to cook with the family and eat all together, so it's a really great place. And then you take a boat ride through the Mekong Delta, and you get to do all different things. Like you can see, that's my colleague Chris doing some rice paper. So yeah, you get to really see different a coconut plantation, different plantation, and meet different people. So it's really, really great. And our last stop is Ho Chi Minh City. So Ho Chi Minh City. So sometimes you can sometimes people call it Saigon. So Saigon is the old name of Ho Chi Minh City, and actually the locals still call it Saigon. So Ho Chi Minh City, because at first I wasn't sure if I had to say Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon, but actually in the books it's Ho Chi Minh City, but when you're there, it's Saigon basically. So Saigon is one of the fastest city in terms of development in Southeast Asia. So it used to be a small city, and now you're going there, and it's actually very modern. Loads of modern building. It's huge. You've got loads of motorbikes everywhere. It's quite hectic, but in a good way. But in there, you also have the French Quarter coming from the French influence. So, for example, you've got Notre Dame Cathedral in the middle of the city. You've got loads of, you've got the Grand Opera, which is like based like the opera in Paris. So it's very interesting and a bit strange to see that mixed, but it's quite, I love it. You also have the food, obviously. So it's a great place on the tour. We're doing a walking tour, and we try banh mi. We also try the famous Vietnamese coffee. We also go and discover like a secret bunker in the city, which is basically you go inside the house and there's a trap on the floor, and under there's a whole bunker which was used during the Vietnamese War. And yeah, so on our last day, we visit the Cu Chi tunnels, the famous Cu Chi tunnel. So it's a real highlight of Vietnam, but it's a really interesting visit to really understand what happened during the Vietnamese War and to see how people were living. And you actually get to go through some of the tunnels if you're not too claustrophobic, because they're very, very tiny. So yeah, so we finish really the tour on a highlight, and then you've got some free time in Ho Chi Minh City, and then yeah. So to recap, it's a 14 days tour. We're staying, we have one night in the overnight train, one night in the guest house, and 11 nights in comfortable hotel Usually they're all located very centrally for you to be able to explore on your own. It's a moderate trip pace, but as like other trips, if you do all the optional, it can be quite full on. If you want a more relaxed pace, you do a bit less activities, but it's a really good pace to discover the country. 14 days is really the perfect amount of time. Obviously, if you want to do more, we've got different options, longer trips. The best time to travel is November to April. But for me, I love actually the rainy season from May to October. So I always tell people to go during the low season because you get less tourists, you get the site for yourself. It's also very green because all the rice fields are like green and the mountain, and it's very lush. I always think that when I used to picture the rainy season like Forrest Gump, when he's during the Vietnam War and then it's just pouring down rain constantly. But actually, it's the same at the other Asian country. It usually rains for 1 hour, half an hour, 1 hour, like very good rain, and then it stops and you've got the whole day to explore. And lastly, I just wanted to touch up on our upgraded Vietnam tour. So it's basically the same tour, the same explore experiences, but with upgraded accommodation. And with the value in Southeast Asia and in Vietnam, the accommodation we have are quite breathtaking. So you can see rooftop pools, amazing cruises, the whole suite. So yeah. So now I'm gonna thank you for listening, and I'm gonna hand you back over to my amazing colleague Ella to wrap it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, James, Bridget, Kelly, and Manon. That just all looked incredible, and I'm hungry for all that amazing food. So yeah, if you're anything like me and can't wait to start planning your next trip, we'd love to talk to you about our tours. So please get in touch with us or your preferred travel agent for your next adventure. So we have a few ways to travel as well. So on this slide, you can see, so our trips focus on giving you the best possible experience in whichever destination you visit and whatever way you travel. So we have a range of ways to explore these destinations, as well as our range on our Explore Upgraded tours, which Manon just touched on as well, and same with Bridget. All three of these destinations we visited today have an upgraded tour with stays in premium accommodation. We also offer a range of ways to discover these destinations, beautiful landscapes through the cycling or walking. So why not extend your trip? On this next slide here, if you're heading to Asia and have some additional time, we think extending and combining tours is a great option to make the most of your holiday. So to make things even easier for you, we've put together a list of our favorite tour combinations as well as optional add-ons. So some of these come as add-ons, and then some of these are dates that you can combine. So yeah, some really special holidays you can have there. Still to come. During this presentation, there have been some questions coming in and the team have been busy answering. We've saved a few of those questions to answer now, and then one of you will be randomly selected for our prize draw. So right now, we'll welcome back James, Bridget, and Manon to answer some of the questions you've been asking us. Hello, team.
Hello.
Okay, so we have a few questions. One for James. Are you able to discuss the Japanese local village food?
Right, so Japanese local village food. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly different. So you'll have less choice. It might be that in a city, obviously, you've got pretty much everything. In a village, it will be more limited. You'll always get rice as an option. You'll always get noodles as an option. And then say if you're in beef country, so where the Hida beef is raised, then there'll be a lot of beef dishes. If you're on the coast, in a coastal village, there'll be a bunch of seafood. And talking about meat and seafood and vegetarians and vegans, one thing to flag up is that, like Manon rightly said, there's some countries like Vietnam that are more easily suited to it. As a vegetarian in Japan, you do need to be a little bit more patient, because quite often fish broth is used in making a lot of the dishes. So as a base, it's brought up with fish broth. So it's just a question of your tour leader helping you. Maybe you write something down on a piece of paper and you just ask in every restaurant before you eat, and you might have a slightly more limited selection.
Fair enough. I love Japanese food. Everything in Japan is my favorite. It's one of my favorite places to travel, and the food is the highlight for me. Speaking of Japan, we have a question of how many different trips do we have in Japan? And I know there's quite a few.
Yeah, so we've got a really cool walking trip that goes on the Kumano Kodo, and it also hits the highlights of Honshu Island, like the places I talked about previously. We've got a really cool cycle trip. The cycling and walking just gets off the beaten track a bit more. The cycling trip goes up to Sado Island, just north of Honshu, so it really gets away from where tourists normally go, and that's a really cool moderate grade trip. We've got an upgraded trip if you prefer 4 and 5-star hotel accommodation. We've got a highlights trip that's just a week long if you prefer something a bit shorter, and then we've got a food and drink trip whose last departure is in October this year.
So good, a trip for everyone, I reckon.
Yep.
A question for Bridget. What is the best time to travel to Sri Lanka?
Oh, okay, yes, excellent. Probably during their winter months, the weather is probably a little bit more enjoyable. During their summer months is also monsoon season. Now, the monsoon season does move around the island, but the majority of our tours, you might notice, are focused on the southwest of the island. And that was probably from that May to September when the humidity really begins to sort of kick in, and you have that rain that I was talking about, more so of an afternoon or evening. There's benefits to traveling during that time, that it's quieter. There'll be less tourists. It can probably be a little bit cheaper as well. But if you're looking for more milder temperatures, probably through maybe December, January through to March, it'll be a bit cooler and drier. And keeping in mind that the further you go up the mountains to places like Nuwara Eliya, it will be a bit chilly. So maybe pack a couple of those layers to bring along as well, because it will be quite cool there. But probably December through to March, January to March, good time for milder temperatures. Oh, and I just saw another picture, not image, a question come through. Someone just asked about vegetarian meals on the tours. I think I touched on that lightly, but Sri Lanka in particular was extremely vegetarian friendly. Tons and tons of options. You definitely will be spoilt for choice as a vegetarian in Sri Lanka.
Cool, thank you, Bridget. I have a question for Manon. Are your tours suitable in Vietnam for solo travelers? I mean, all of our tours are, but you take it away.
Yeah. I was about to say all the tours are like actually I don't remember how many percentage, but a lot of our customers are solo travelers. But Vietnam is a great place if you wanna to start to do a travel solo, because it's safe. It's really easy to travel to different places. Even in the city, it's so easy to get a taxi. I think it's Grab. The app is like Uber, but it's like super easy, super cheap. You can walk easily. Everyone is friendly. So yeah, perfect place to travel solo.
Oh, thank you, Manon. I think we have one more for James. Give me 1 second. Sorry, maybe I can't find it. We'll move. Is it better to go to Japan or to Korea first?
That's that's a tricky one. I don't think it really makes a great deal of difference. I think Japan, I love them both, and Japan blew me away a bit more. So maybe just from logic, you go Korea and then to Japan. But there was someone on our trip that had just come from Japan, and she had an awesome time in Korea. So yeah, So I'm kind of
All up.
getting out of answering, but I
Yeah,
would do
yeah.
Korea, then Japan.
All up to preference, I reckon.
Yeah.
Cool. And
Now,
then
Ella,
I
I
think,
saw one more question come through
oh,
if you'd like me to grab
amazing,
it.
Bridget.
Yeah.
I sure would.
I just had someone ask if you can share a room with a stranger. Definitely on our Explore tours, we have the twin share option where if you're a solo traveler and you'd like to be paired up with another passenger, they'll pair you with someone of the same sex. So that's our twin share option. If you did want to have a private room, that's where we have the single option available as well with the single supplement. But you have both those options there. Definitely talk to your travel agent or the customer service team, and we can look at both of those availabilities on any trip for you. Yeah, thanks, Ella.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So the team will answer any more questions that you have in the Q&A, and if we've not got to yours yet, we will. And we'll also be sharing some of our most frequently asked questions and answers with the event recording when we email it out later this week. But of course, we're a call or an email away if you want to ask us anything else. Cool. Now over to something very exciting. We have a special Asia Getaway sale with 20% off everything Asia. So if you're planning your Asia adventures, now's probably a fabulous time. You have time with the offer being valid from the 5th to the 18th of June. So next up is our prize draw. One lucky winner will win a Japanese tea set to enjoy a taste of Japan at home. So we've selected someone at random, and the winner it's Helen Parker for the prize winner. So congratulations. We'll be in touch by email to get your prize sorted. How exciting. So just to finish up, thanks to my colleagues, both on the screen, those behind the scenes, and to those joining us and for engaging in the Q&A chat. It's been so lovely to watch all the conversations, and I've learned so much about all these beautiful destinations. Please look out for that email in the next few days with the recording and a short feedback survey. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope you have a lovely evening tonight. Thank you so much.